All right, thanks very much for being here, you guys. Appreciate it. Wanted to just say a couple quick things. In my division, we are always looking for places and spaces where we can interpret history and exhibit artwork. And we had made a decision to re-examine this one particular space in our museum. It didn't have a name. It was basically the blue wall, I guess you could call it. And so with my team's assistance, we kind of thought, well, it already has a hanging system there. We used to do we still do the children's art thing just for a short period of time on that wall, but it was a very temporary thing. It wasn't a consistent, it wasn't a curated space, full stop, I guess you could say. So all the while we were having these discussions, I literally got a presentation from Roz about this collection of works that you had done a couple of years ago. I guess you'll learn more about it when she did it.
2021.
Yeah. And we have a couple more people coming. And so I presented it to my team, I presented it to the folks here, and everybody thought, absolutely, this is the perfect installation for us to kick off this new space. Now, we now call it the West Corridor Wall, so start using that terminology. Looking at you, Jeremy. He's been here from the very beginning, so he probably has his own name for it.
Great.
This particular installation is our inaugural installation for a regular curated space. Now we're going to alternate between outside artists or outside works, as well as we're looking at our own collection. And so we have an amazing AV collection here at the museum, and it's almost more difficult to curate it because there's too much choice. And this particular piece, this particular collection came to us as a curated piece already. So we just had to figure out how many of them we can fit on the wall for the most part.
It's a series.
Yeah. So I'm extremely pleased to have her here. We always intended to try to do an artist talk, but couldn't quite get our act together. And so you went ahead and booked your own flight, and I said, well, if you're going to be in town, why don't we have a little artist talk? So without further ado, I want to welcome to the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum, Roz Dimon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. I was absolutely thrilled when Lance Towser responded to our proposal. This is a series, I'll talk more about it, but it has premiered in New York at a few prestigious libraries there and showing the whole series. And we decided to show 12 of the 19 digital pieces. And I'll tell you a little bit myself. I'll talk about it in a minute, that I'm from Atlanta originally. But I have been in the forefront of digital media, but I'm really kind of an old fogey in new clothes. I'm all about painting and drawing. Drawing is still so much a part of what I'm doing. And when I say this is a digital drawing, these pieces on the museum wall are all done with me inside the computer, working with a pen that feels my touch, and I'm making those marks. But I get a mark that speaks to today in a way that my marks, when I'm working Conti crayon or on just charcoal on paper, it's still my signature mark, but it doesn't have that little electric thing that the digital brushes have inside my computer. So for me, it's all been about manifesting this world, and almost by accident, when I came to New York City from Atlanta in the early days, my paintings, I was going to be famous like everybody else. I'm actually working on it a little bit there, but I don't know what that fame even means anymore at this point and how important it is. But I drove my Volkswagen up, and within a couple of years, my paintings had filled with squares and electricity. And I had no intention of ever operating a computer. Anyway, thank you for having me here. I'm honored to be here. I hope you'll see the exhibit if you haven't. And I'm just going to get into the presentation, how these all came about. I call them expressive portraits because that's what they are. These are not illustrations, which I really admire illustrators, and they're very expressive as well. James, you want me to get closer?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay. My husband, James, who I must tout, is a wonderful, supportive art husband. I just want to start by saying, because those of you who've seen the exhibit might think that all I do is portraits, and I must say I had not done a portrait in many, many years, and I'm just going back to a series I did when I just graduated from the University of Georgia Lamar Dodd School of Art in drawing and painting. And this was one of my first shows in Atlanta, Georgia. And we're back, I'm getting to be an old fogey here, but it's 1978. And I did these portraits, and these are all oil on canvas. And this is one of my mother. So this is about 3 feet high. But I'm starting with this just to give you a little background into the fact that I really, before I did these Lincoln portraits, I hadn't done a portrait since these portraits, really. Once in a while, self-portraits. But just giving you a little perspective. The interesting thing, telling you that I have been in the forefront of digital media since going to New York City, is when I look back, even this show in Atlanta, Georgia, my first after graduating in art and drawing and painting, I recorded all the people who sat for me. So my mother's sitting there talking about raising teenagers, including me, and they were interesting stories there were about 12 portraits that I had done in a year. And when you came into the gallery, the show was called Talking Heads. So in a way, I was trying to reach off the wall and touch people using tech a little bit, even in my first show. So we're leaping ahead to a rather tumultuous period, which I would say we're still in a tumultuous period in our country. November 2020 through January 2021, I was very distraught, like many of us, about what was going on in our country at that time. And I just really, I wasn't really, I always work in series, but nothing was really hitting me. And I was seeking, but I saw this portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Of course, I've always admired. That's coming up. Anyway, his portrait just spoke to me, and I wanted, before I show the portrait, I love poetry, and recently I read this poem, which you can read on your own, because I'm not going to put it up, but it really struck me. It's a poem by Stephen Spender called The Truly Great, and I'll just read this. I think continually of those who were truly great is a celebrated poem by the English poet Stephen Spender that pays tribute to extraordinary individuals who live with spiritual integrity and passion. The poem celebrates figures who fought for life, resisted spiritual noise and fog, and left a lasting honor on the world, symbolized by their connection to an ageless spring and a fire's center. It's a call to remember these inspirational figures and not let abstractions of modern life obscure their vital legacy. I'm sorry I always believe in referencing everything, and I'm not sure who wrote that. But it really struck me. It's a great poem if you want to read it. Here's the portrait that many of us know, the 1863 Alexander Gardner portrait. And I just looked at this guy's face. I just found it online, and it's copyright free. And what a landscape of courage and grief and changing times. I mean, I saw a million faces in this face. And this series came from an act of true just passion on my part. And other people later said, oh, Roz, that's so clever of you to do Lincoln. Well, I've really done anything clever. I can do some clever things. But this came from the heart. I just responded and went, I got to draw that face. And I started drawing that face. And during that time, we were having, in the news every day, there were different things coming out. And you'll see with these portraits that here I'm referencing, on the back of every one of them is a quote from a news source of that day with the URL of what was happening. So this is a series that is definitely tied to a historic time in our history. And I do want to emphasize that one thing that I really like about being in the heartland of America is that I feel that a lot of my work is about the center of things. And this series is not about whether you're a Republican or Democrat, which I found interesting that both own Lincoln. Everybody seems to, which says a lot about them. But it's about something deeper and greater. The first one was very abstract because I hadn't done a portrait in a long time, and I just looked at him and these are all digitally drawn with my pen. I'm zooming in and out of my computer to capture his face, just like when I would do my canvas of my mother. I would go up close and I'd come back. Well, the way I work now, I have several screens, But I'm working on a big screen. I have a paintbrush. I have different layers for every mark. And having worked in this medium now, I'm pretty quick working in it. And I tend to draw very gesturally. But instead of going back and forth with the computer, I just zoom in, and then I zoom out. And these pieces are designed to go very large. The series we have here is 18 by 24. And they're all editions of 20, and some have been purchased. And yet, really, I didn't do these thinking about money. I did it thinking, after I finished them, I went, these need to be seen publicly, and of all places. This couldn't be a better place to show them. I call this I Deeply Disapprove. I'm kind of seeing what's going on through Lincoln's eyes. And each one, I put in just alphabetical, Lincoln number 1, I numbered them. And I didn't really know quite what I was doing, but I do put the date later, and I do have a reference to just one of the headlines that day. Georgia recertifies Biden's victory in state from CNN. They're getting a little more formed, deeply disturbing. He's concerned, you know. I mean, he got us through a civil war and kept us together somehow. December 9th, the Supreme Court refuses to block Pennsylvania ruling, preserving the Biden win. So things are going back and forth. And notice that the bow tie, I always go back to the main picture, the bow tie. That bow tie is in every piece, and sometimes just a little swirl, but wow. You know, when I show this, people go, wow, that's fantastic, Roz. I go, yeah, I can't really compete with that. Lincoln number 2. I was once a boy. These things would just, I always have titles, and I'm never one to usually have a title 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not a minimalist, I'm more of a maximalist. But when I'm drawing, ideas come to me, and it just, the words in the image usually are very embedded, like Noah is riding his bow tie, I was once a boy is in his hair, and these marks all matter. All these marks matter. So signing things is hard. It's one of the only series I've ever done where digitally I just felt like I had to put down what Lincoln number it was. So Lincoln number 3. We can go back to these if anybody has any questions. But I was thinking about him like I was once a boy. He didn't ask to be president and rule over a civil war in the United States. I mean, I cannot imagine. But the marks I'm getting with my electron brush are things I can't get with my regular charcoal. This says "na," he uses bow tie again, and the word "na" is in here. We're moving through December. Sad. And I tried something different here, which I hadn't done before. I can't go back. Oh, this is always fun. Something tech always seems to. I can go to the podium. I wonder if it needs a battery. Do you think this might need a battery? It's not going forward. Yeah. Maybe. It might be my hands.
Turn it off and back on. It shows full battery. Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
For
Sure. I'm gonna have to turn it back. Yeah, well, okay, so maybe we'll just, James, I'm gonna have to.
There it is.
Oh,
Try pointing this direction.
oh, thank you.
He's up to 6, Roz.
Okay. Where was I? Okay, here, number 5. Thank you so much. Would you, here, I can be here and still click over my shoulder. I wanted to try something different, just using one tool, because I love drawing, so I just used one tool. So many brushes on my digital, on the computer. I mean, there are thousands of them to choose from. Some people can't work in digital painting because you have too many options. But this, I just thought I'd use one tool, and I scribbled this out. It has a really different kind of feeling than the others. Sad, it's called. And each one has its referring. I'm not necessarily taking a position on what is being said here. I'm reading it, I'm disturbed, and we're all upset about what's going on at this time in our country. But I would pick different things, anything from Fox, CNN, Reuters. It wasn't like I was really trying to do all MSNBC, which I do lean to. But you know what, I'm someone who really, these pieces are done to bring us together and have a conversation in ways that you can't necessarily have. Well, sometimes it's easier through a work of art. Again, the bow tie's gotten kind of abstract. Onward, number 6. Number 7, maybe. He's singing, hey, we might get through this. We might. There's something about this one that just has such a sense of justice to me. And when you look back at his portrait, I'm so glad that the museum included the photo next to the original photo, because when you look at it, you can kind of see all the, I mean, we're all a million faces, really, but Lincoln's is just so potent. This has a real sense of justice to it. Now here is natural media. A little light, I hope you can see it. This is pencil on paper. This is on one of my collectors, and it says in pencil right here. I was just kind of thrilled with myself, grabbing a pencil, which I hadn't in a long time. I hear you, it is written in here, maybe in little, sometimes there are little sayings in these. He's listening to us. This is number 9. It's in the collection of Gail Levin, who's a noted art historian, of Edward Hopper, and she's also been written about Lee Krasner and Judy Chicago, and I'm thrilled to have her as a friend and supporter. But this is in her collection, and will be going to the Rutgers Zimmerli Museum, which has a large collection of feminist work, artist. I see you, this is charcoal. Oh, I want to say, when you start drawing someone over and over, Lincoln had just the biggest fat lower lip. I just could not get that lip enough, and it's big. It's like, see that? And then the little one's kind of like crinkly and going all over the place. He's looking seriously at us. Here's my kind of brooding Lincoln, and he wasn't one of my favorites in the beginning, but he's become one of my favorites, number 10. I know them so well now. But talk about fat lips, and I would just go over these lips over it, and I'm trying to touch his very soul. And I would try to draw the eyes over and over. And there's some that didn't make it. They go in the trash bin. I mean, I draw fast, but I have a pretty high bar for what I think should make it into the series. Not done. A little bit of a Machiavellian kind of look on this one. Bow ties getting slanted. Not done, it's written in here. Lincoln number 11. Mary Watt. This is another mixed media on paper. And it's Christmas Eve, and none of us are real Mary. I mean, maybe some people are, but that's why I call this, it just popped out being Mary Watt. Also, this is owned. 4 of the 5 one-of-a-kinds are owned. And when they were bought, I knew already that this was unlike my other series. I said, this has to stay with the collection somehow, or I want some people to see it on a larger audience. And I said, you have to sign here when you buy this that you're going to allow it to travel at least for a while. And they all said fine, which I really appreciated. So there's only one of the one-of-a-kinds left. What Christmas is like for a U.S. president, I can't imagine any day, but I'm sure Christmas is difficult. Why me? This is one of a kind that's still actually available. And why me? It's just sort of like, really, I didn't ask for this. We're getting to the end of 2020, getting into 21. Still no. They're all different, but if you remember that face and you look at them, all these things are in that face. And still no is written into the drawing. Go on again. Now, it's funny how, for me, the excitement is in the middle. I think that's where the great civilizations always have been, where we can argue, we can mix with one another without, killing each other, and that's, I'm in the center, I'm almost at the center of this series that I don't even know how many I'm going to be doing. I'm doing one every other day now. And James was there. My studio's a little apart from our house where we now live in Shelter Island. And I would just come in and say, oh, I've done another one. And I was just very excited about them. And this particular one has been, I would say we're in the center of the series. And this one is really, this has been the favorite. Lincoln, at least that people have purchased, for 20 of these. When I say they're 20, I was featured in Forbes magazine in 1990 with David Hockney about digital art. And one of my top collectors then, who's been with me from the beginning, oil on canvas up to digital, he said, they interviewed him and said, well, how do you know she's not going to do 1 million of these things? And he said, it's the trust of the artist. And I thought that was such a great answer because we've been able to copy for a long time. Walter Benjamin's book, if you don't know about reproducibility, is all about the fact that we've been able to reproduce. So when I say there's 20 of this edition, there are. There's also a larger edition I made, and those are 1 of 10. But there won't be any others. I mean, this will be, that's just my word. I mean, the galleries can always, if something becomes big, they can always find a way. Anyway, now we're on number 15, which is about, well, we're more than halfway through the series, but this is back to, I pulled out the paper instead of doing it on my computer and printing it on my top printer that I have. This is a mixed media, charcoal, things were blowing everywhere. You might work with charcoal in your hands and prints, it's messy. Still with you, but it's number 16, and he was the number 16 president. And the woman who owns this, I don't think she and I have ever voted alike in our lives, and she loves this piece. She has about 12 of my pieces, but it's an interesting kind of Mutt and Jeff relationship. So, but she loves the piece, and I love that she has it. Feeling Blue, getting towards the end of the series. He's just starting to go a teeny bit blue in here. So I guess some of my biases are creeping in just a little bit. Lincoln number 17. But he's feeling blue in every way. And I mean, when I did the title, I like that, because I want everyone to own these pieces. And I don't mean own them, but feel that they can relate to them in some way. And here he goes completely blue. This is the first one where I did a black and white digital drawing, and then I said, I just want to use that drawing and let it go blue. And I also asked some of my friends on social media to submit little pieces of theirs to be part of the blue bow tie. So all the pieces, if you look closely, are just little blue squares in his bow tie. So that's really pretty much the final in this series of my Lincolns, which it's funny, when I first showed them, I called it My Affair with Abraham Lincoln. And I remember somebody said to James, well, that's okay, he's dead. So it was kind of fun. I did one more. I'd say the official series is probably the number 18 that I just showed, but it was his birthday coming up on February 12th. And you can see it's almost going back to his abstract. I mean, he's leaving me a little bit. I'm kind of know that I'm not going to do anymore. I just knew I wasn't going to do anymore. But I did this final one. It's rather abstract and interesting in a way, but it was on his birthday. So that's my final Lincoln, but I do want to share a few other things and then certainly talk with you if you have any questions. It was 2 years later, and the Lincolns had been done, and I was already starting to show the Lincolns. And I was concerned as a woman who is for choice, and I very much respect motherhood, absolutely. But when I saw that rights for women and our choice, our rights over our bodies is my main thing. So I think we should be able to have our rights over our bodies and not have the government in it, which honestly was like, for conservative Republicans, that's it. You don't get out of my house, So I was upset about things going on, and I was reading about her, because people were giving me books about Lincoln, and I was learning a lot about Lincoln, and then I thought, well, I want to read about Mary Todd Lincoln. And so I was reading about her, and I really grew to respect her. She really didn't have many people. I mean, her family was from, Virginia, probably related to slaves. I heard that one of her good friends was Jefferson Davis, and head of the Confederacy, his wife. Well, after she married Lincoln, and the way he was going, they weren't going to be great friends. And also her seamstress, Cameron Ketter. I think that I met Pam, and she said, as soon as I knows her name, I think it's Ketter. Elizabeth Ketter, who was black, and did all of her sewing for her, as well as for, I can't remember Jefferson Davis' wife's name. But she was very supportive of her causes and gave to them. And also, I know she was criticized for having these fancy parties. Well, if she hadn't, I'm sure she'd be criticized as well. She lost so many people, and I learned a lot from Pam, who was just here, who dresses as Mary Lincoln. And she said, wow, Roz, she lost more people than most people do in a lifetime, in just like 15 years. I mean, she lost several children. So I was kind of giving her, I wrote in here, I had no one. This is a one of a kind. These are all on 13 by 19 paper. and they're framed to be 18 by 24. This is not in the collection here at the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library, but I just wanted to share with you as a woman. You can see I'm very reticent to talk, but I was a shy child, but when you find your voice, you got to use it. And you know what? She had no one, but I would say we do. We have someone. We have each other. Abe is listening. Let's bring it together. And I know we can do it. And I'm just going to play a little video. Just going to go through the series. I'm going to pass around this little mini TV that you can turn on and you can watch this. It's fun to be with a person who's very techy. I said, oh, let's get one of these. I said, oh, we can play the Lincoln theme on it. Great.
That's okay.
That's for it, so, you know, turn it on. Pass it around. Thank you, Peter Grossman. He's worked with me for years since I worked in the World Trade Center for 10 years off and on corporate art and also in fine art. I like working with people. I think those two, corporate and fine art, should mix it up more. And I think as digital gets more of a handle out there, it is more mixed up. I really admire craftsmanship. Just want to show you a quick picture of two pieces that are in New York City right now at a gallery where I show. And these are the Lincolns at 5 feet high. And you can really see the details in the face because a lawyer who has two of these in his office at the Woolworths building, he helps people who need help. And he just really loved these pieces. And he said, how high will these go? I had designed them at 300 dots per inch to go 74 inches high. I mean, I was zooming in really close so you don't lose a single mark when you go this high. Pleased to be here. This is, if you haven't seen, I think a lot of, well, some of you work here, so no, but I'm pleased either way to have you here. Here's a series that when Lance showed me how they were hung, and you know, we went back and forth from New York just online and on Zoom, I was so pleased. And thank you for your time, and I'll open it up to Q&A. Hope you're enjoying your badges. Yeah, thank you. Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure.
What gallery in New York?
I'm with Carter Burden Gallery, and it's on 28th Street in Chelsea.
Say the name again.
Carter Burden Gallery. Yeah. It's a very cool gallery. I will say it's a nonprofit. It's highly admired, and you have to be over 60 to be in Carter Burden because it's sort of backed by a nonprofit that's about helping seniors. And it's very hard to get in a gallery in New York, no matter how well you're doing. And I will say that they get 300 applications a month. And I was so pleased when a few years ago to be part of the gallery. And it also, you really get to know people in the gallery. It has a warmth that a lot of galleries do not have. And I'm very honored to be with them.
I'm going to ask, when you started to dabble in digital art, what was the driving force there, being a traditional artist, whatever you want to call it, just to switch it? What year are we talking about?
1984, I took the first course in New York City on digital media. And my paintings, even in Atlanta, when I left Atlanta in 81, I had to be in New York. I was busting out of Atlanta. And I still have my family's from the South, going way back, so I have a real fondness for the South. I still say y'all occasionally, especially when I've been with them. But when I came to New York already, the urban environment, I was responding to, I think spiritually and scientifically a little, to the space in between us, like what's going on in New York, you know, just faxes. And I was working in offices to support my habit. And my apartment didn't look like the ones you see in the movies, you know, it was one of these teeny little hovels, you know. And my paintings were filling up with squares of electricity. I was responding to the electric force that was already here and was coming. I was really painting pixels. And I have a whole series called information paintings that show almost how they lead into these little squares, because once you start working on the computer, every element in the computer is made of this little square called a pixel. So, I mean, they were kind of, when I look back, they're kind of, not ugly, but new things are ugly. I mean, they're just people, oh, Roz, I love your florals and this. And I go, well, I don't know what's happening, but I have to follow. I always tell younger people, if you have an interruption, follow it, because it might lead you somewhere very exciting, but also hard. I mean, you know, it's if the gallery doors were hard to get in then with my paintings. Once I did digital in the 80s, but you know what, and I got together with other artists who were doing it. It was so exciting. Here's this new thing coming. There was no internet. You know, we were just, most of us painters, sensing what was coming. And so there's a whole story on my website about all of this. And but does that answer a little bit? Like, yeah. Yeah, but the first one's like a portrait of James, 4 colors on an IBM. And I was like, oh, this is great. And I could see all the squares and the pixels. And I had to take a picture of my screen and take it to a commercial photographer in New York, Baldel Dugal, and have them printed because there was no, there was no internet, and we were still calling each other on rotary phone, phones. And I have a talk that's all about this too. It's been, I look back and it's been quite an adventure, and I like to share it, because you never know where life's going to take you. And it has, and it's been hard too. I was working at the World Trade Center, 9/11. Was a very, very tough period. Very tough. I was at the top of my game, and everything came down. I was working at the Wall Street Journal, and I'd been paid a lot of money to be there, and they saw what was happening with the .com, so I was one of the more creative teams there. I was one of the first to be laid off. But then the World Trade Center came down, and we lived within 16 blocks, and our whole lives, my husband and I, we all know this, whether you lose a child or you lose your life, or something happens, tragedy hits. And I'm just sharing this story with you because it's not just all like, oh, isn't this exciting? But I'm telling this story more and more because, like Abe's face, it's not just cheerful. It's mixed with a lot of sorrow. But I didn't do anything for a long time. I took an icon writing class. I'm a religious person. I'm interested in all the religions, but I am a religious person. And writing an icon with a bunch of other people were these flat layers, symbolism. I saw this show at the Met about icons were a source of comfort to a nation besieged, and I was like, how's my work comfort anybody, and what am I doing, And I did 3 icons, and then my first one, these are other pieces that I haven't showed here, but they're called DIMONscapes. I named them after me. It's after 30 years of digital art, but after doing these icons, I said, I want to do a multi-layered painting that invites people into the layers. And 4 of these are now in major installations in New York. One's at our History Museum in Shelter Island. And it took 300 years of artifacts and history and makes one painting that you can then go inside with your phone and other things and go inside this painting. And it's not like Rafiki Anadol, if you've heard of him, at MoMA. He's fantastic, but everything's moving. It's like, a video comes and it goes. A movie's here and it goes. This piece is almost like the cover of a movie, where you're going deep inside the Z space of math. I hope you guys aren't sleeping yet. But that's the other side of me. These are the drawings, the underbelly, and I call those my novels. And they're in several museums, including the 9/11. A piece about finding home when everything is lost. And I did that piece after I went and did these icons. So I'm just saying, if you're going through a sorrowful time, hang in there, keep listening. Something will bubble up, Anyway, did you have a question? No? It's like in Zoom, raise your hand.
Can you describe how the barcode works?
Oh yes, now after the presentation, if you'd like to come up with your phone, this is a QR code of Lincoln number 15, and when you click on it, you can see it being drawn one mark at a time. I can show it on the screen real fast. You see it coming up?
Yeah.
When I work one mark to the layer really quickly. So this shows the evolution of this piece. gonna mark it. I can't get a mark like that because my charcoal. It's got this electronic tread. I mean, I think there's universalities to art, but I think art of the digital period speaks to an era that, like no other. Especially as we're going into AI, where I think kind of bookends those of us who started working with digital media, and now AI is really changing everything. I mean, huge. So I'm kind of excited about it, but that's going to be for the next generation to tackle more than me. But I see my life as representing this particular era. And that's the final Lincoln number 15. Any other questions? Oh, yes, hi.
Usually have multiple ideas running around their heads before they actually do those. What's running around your mind right now in terms of the next art series or piece or technique?
Thank you for asking that. I have a funny coffee cup that that says Picasso had 8 periods. Why do women only get one? It was kind of a joke, but you know, I think especially in this time, especially with things changing, we have access to so much. I have periods, and you can see this artist and the energy throughout the series. But yes, you are thinking of something just as you finished another. It's usually bubbling. I've been doing some football paintings, thinking about testosterone and how my whole family is sports oriented, you know, so they're always watching the sports. And I've been thinking about the Olympic Games and how it's so cool how in football, you know, the guys are there and they're ready to tear each other apart, you know, and then whoop, the whistle, you know, no, hey, get back to where you're supposed to be. I mean, I thought, wow, this is very cool. So I've been doing a few of those. I've got
Can you
tons.
show that in Uzbekistan?
Well, I think, I'm starting to show those a little bit. We just returned from Uzbekistan, a global tech show that I participated in. Very exciting. And the women there and the men were very interested in these pieces. But also lately with things going on, I have these, it's almost like my early information paintings, but I call those, that's what I called in New York, where everything was filling with squares. I'm doing these, and they were like film montages. And my latest one has a woman baking cake, and the tanks roll in, and it's sort of juxtaposing where we all are with like, well, I can't speak for where you are, but it's where I am. Like, I'm concerned about things, but life goes on, you know, and I'm still baking cake, and I can't really bake very good cakes, but I try. It's going to be a series of, it's about America. They're all going to be about America. I have one called Hot Dogs, Weenies, and it's going to be funny. It's funny, but it's also serious. I like paradox in the middle of my things, so that people can come at them from. I did a series of guns. The New Yorkers didn't like the guns. They're like, "What, Roz? How could you draw guns?" I'm like, "Well, how not? Everybody has one, you know. I mean, they're in the and they really are some of my finer drawings. I think along with my Lincolns." And I'd like to show them again. And I thought they brought up a lot of dialogue. I got more stories with those guns. But they have paradox. They're kind of beautiful, but they're also evil. You know, they're evil and good. I mean, everything is. I mean, it's all about that paradox. But did that answer at all, I hope? Thanks. I have a roundabout way of talking. As I get older, I go, wait, where did I start? I don't even know. Anyway, but I'm honored to be here, and I can't wait to see the exhibit, and thank you so much for coming. And if you want to see any more of my work, it's Roz Dimon, DIMON.com, and thank you.